Okay, cool. All right, guys, welcome to season 2, episode 2 of the Airgun podcast. I have a long-awaited guest, and I think a lot of you guys know this gentleman here. He's been referred to as the Morgan Freeman of the Airgun world by many, um, and he really needs no introduction. But guys, Tyler Patner is here with us on the air.
Wow, Tay, that was a hell of an introduction. Morgan Freeman of the Airgun world.
Hey, what can I say? I think you've earned the title.
Wow, that's strong, man. I hope I live up to it.
I think you do. You kind of look similar too. Same
Oh,
nose.
wow. Oh, it's same. I knew it was something. Destined for greatness, right?
Yeah, man, it's genetic. Are you related?
Totally. He is my third cousin on my mom's side. Long, strange family history there as well. Yeah.
Well, doesn't matter. It just matters where you ended up,
Exactly.
So, guys, Tyler Patner is on the air. So, Tyler, I'm going to quit speaking to an audience that isn't here, but just tell us a little bit about yourself. What are 3 fun facts that we don't know?
Oof. Well, let's see. I've probably been in the hospital for like surgeries and stuff before the age of 10 more times than most people will be in their entire life. That's a fun fact. I've been to, I think, like 5 or 6 different countries shooting air guns now, which is also cool. Don't know if everybody knows that. And I got nothing. If you don't follow us on Instagram, then you don't know that I'm a dog owner. Love my dog a lot. Wouldn't be the same without her. I'm going to go with those 3. Is that cool?
Boom. That's perfect. I was actually thinking before the episode started to ask you a little bit about your dog. What's the dog's name again?
Leela.
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 Okay. Where'd you come up with that?
I didn't actually. She's a rescue. It's a very, very long story, but I've had her since I was in college. And she's just a lunatic, but a fantastic lunatic. She's like 13, I think, now, and you wouldn't know it. She runs around, goes nuts, just like any other dog does when you come home. She sits in front of this main bay window I have in my place, and she just barks at anything that walks outside. I told the vet the other day that, she's 13, and the vet looked at me like I was a psycho. So I think she's doing all right.
But yeah, whatever she's doing, you should do it too.
She's found the fountain of youth. There is no question about that.
For real. Yeah, I see pictures of the deer all the time in your yard or your neighbor's yard.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool. You
Yeah.
ever get tempted to just snipe one?
Oh man, you have no idea. I'm very fortunate to live in a. So here in Northeast Ohio, there are a lot of areas that are used to be wooded that have obviously now been, cut down for housing developments and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I live in one of those areas, and it's actually right next to this big forest preserve. Cleveland that has their metro parks, which are kind of a nature preservation of sorts that actually surround the city. And I live maybe 300 yards from one. So there's always wildlife activity, and the deer are just passing through. I mean, I've posted before. I mean, you see a couple 4-point deers just walking through your yard, and then a boom, like an 8-point buck, and you're like, come here, jump the fence, let's go.
Get a little corn stand out there.
Oh,
let
man.
them come a little closer.
Yeah, well, they actually have, and I haven't looked into this, and I really need to. So Ohio doesn't have like airgun hunting. It's not it's something you can do here, legally at least.
Right.
And one thing they do have a depredation type of permit where you can actually go hunt on public lands, but within city limits. Most of the time, obviously, when you go hunting, you're on public land or private land, but you are out in the boonies.
Right.
And so they have this program set up where here in Cuyahoga County, you can actually hunt deer, but I've not looked into it at all, but I really need to. Especially now that I've kind of started to dabble into the archery stuff a little bit as well, because it could be a very, very interesting way to put a little meat in the freezer. I don't even know if you're allowed to do that, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. That I'd say look into it, bro. I mean,
Yeah, it's
if
it's
you
on
can
the
step out
agenda.
your if you could step out the back door and just sling an arrow, slock a deer real quick,
Right.
pull it over your neighbor's fence back into your yard, I think that's a win.
Just my neighbors wouldn't freak out at all. You just seeing deer guts anywhere in the yard, that wouldn't be a thing at all.
Well, you know what? Screw them,
I'm with it.
Man, so you got a great dog, found the fountain of youth. You got deer in your
Yes.
backyard. Tell us a little. Can you expand a little bit on the hospital stuff, if you would, just so we know?
Yeah. So, I guess the long and short of it is, basically when I was a little kid, I was born with a sunken chest. So they had to go in and medically repair that, which is like, whole cut open your chest and go to town type of deal. So I was in the hospital with that, and then a slew of sinus surgeries, and then kind of your more run of the mill stuff, tonsils, adenoids, all that jazz. So yeah, man, I've been through a bit of everything, but basically, yeah, it's all right, man. It's growing experience, I suppose, but it's a good thing in a way, because most people have this kind of general fear of like either doctors or hospitals.
Mm-hmm.
I got very comfortable, it's so it's not a huge deal to go to the doctor, or if God forbid you have to go to the hospital for something. It's not usually a worrying thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man, you're nice and acquainted with it.
Exactly.
Man, I cannot relate to that, except that I did have a sinus infection. That's what postponed the podcast episode. That was pretty bad. So if
Yeah.
anyone out there has a sinus infection, I will be praying for you to either
That's
die or recover immediately.
that's why I missed SHOT Show this year. I had the sinus infection from hell.
Oh,
Uh,
freaking A, dude.
yeah, horrible timing as well. Which is, but hey, what are you gonna do, right?
Yeah, who knows, man? It could be like a blessing. You could have been on the plane, got off, and then some guy at the airport looking for you, knowing you'd be there, was going to assassinate you, and then you weren't there because you had a sinus infection.
Wow, that's pretty. Like, you've been thinking about this, huh? Were
It
you at the
wasn't.
airport, Tay?
It was not me. No, man, I wouldn't kill you, dude. You're
Well,
like
I hope not.
you're the reason I got into air guns. I mean, you're probably the biggest. You play the biggest role for sure. Like, it was your video on the Pyramyd Insider with Diana Stormrider, and I was like, dang, that guy is way better looking than me, and I got to get that air gun.
Wow.
So I did it.
Yeah, that's touching. In all seriousness, I don't know if anybody's ever said that to me. So that's pretty awesome. I
Yeah,
feel all of the hardships of the day have now been washed away thanks to you. Seriously, thank you.
yeah, man. That of course. All jokes aside, because that's pretty much 90% of what I am. 10% mustache, 90% jokes. But
I dig it.
yeah, you were seriously like the pioneer. I mean, I had seen like Matt Dubber videos and Ted Beers videos and stuff like that. And that got me hooked, and I'm like, I wanted to learn more about it. I don't even know what the first thing was that made me look into PCPs, but it was something. And then I saw the Storm Rider, and I was like, dude, gotta have that in 22. Crazy.
Yeah, yeah. That
Um,
I'll be honest with you, man. That gun changed a lot of things in the industry. You look at kind of some of the benchmark moments in air guns over the last maybe 10 years or so. At least that's about how long I've been into this.
mm-hmm.
And I mean, the first one that hit my radar was like the Benjamin Marauder. So
Right.
much like you, I remember watching like Paul Capello on the Airgun Reporter, Pyramyd Air videos at the time,
Mm-hmm.
um, doing a video on the Marauder, and I was like, that's amazing. And I would cruise Pyramyd Air at the time, and you'd see like $1,000 Air Arms and FX and some of these other brands out there, and you're like, I was a college kid, I'm never going to afford that. Actually, I was in high school, now that I'm thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just like kind of this unattainable thing, and then a $500 PCP that you're like, this does just as well as all the high end stuff, man. I got to have one. So that it didn't end up being the first thing I got, but was just kind of like what you were saying, just hugely disruptive to my brain and changed the way I looked at the world a bit. And then, yeah, I mean, I'd say the next one or two, the Umarex Gauntlet and the Diana Stormrider, just kind of blew things up. And now we have a whole slew of $300 PCPs.
Yeah, man, it is crazy because I didn't see quite anything like that. Because for me, even $100 to $200 jump from the Storm Rider, which was like $199.99,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I can't swing that, dude. And I didn't, didn't even have the pump. I just bought the gun, and I'm like, okay, I'm hooking this thing up to this air compressor, and it is not working. My gun's broken. And then I did a little bit more research, and I'm like, oh frick, you gotta be a freaking scuba diver to fill these things.
You mean I can't fill my air gun with 125 psi shop compressor?
What kind of bull crap is this, man? I got a bike pump out back, and it won't even work.
In all seriousness, do you know how much bigger the industry would be if you could actually do that? If it was like like an air gun, a legitimate modern PCP ran off a shop compressor, like they would be as prevalent as firearms. Hands
I don't
down.
want to say that I'm working on that kind of technology because I'm
Wow.
not, but I would like to, possibly.
Right. You and me both, man.
Dude, all you gotta do is meet me halfway. Where's halfway between us?
Oof. Probably like
Kentucky.
no, that's way far south. Probably like Southern Illinois,
Okay.
maybe
Well, we can
Kansas.
figure out the details later. I'd
Yeah,
rather meet anywhere than Kansas. I'd rather go to prison than go to Kansas.
I
So
agree with you. Actually, I've never been, but I've never heard anything worth going for. So
I'm sure there's Kansas people listening like, F you.
I just offended a handful of people, which is a normal day for me. So not a big deal.
Yeah, that's about how many people are in Kansas anyway, so it's okay.
I can tell you right off the bat that it is not one of the larger sales states for Pyramyd Air. So how's that?
Hey, that's fair.
Yeah.
So how did you get in with Pyramyd Air?
Oh, okay. So I was in college, and I think I was a sophomore or a junior in college, and like most people, had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I was progressing towards this political science degree, which I came into college thinking I wanted to be a lawyer. And then probably after my first year said, like, heck no, I'm not doing more school. This sucks.
Yeah.
So I decided to start looking elsewhere, and figuring, kind of taking some weird elective classes, trying to see what fit, because I was too far along to change my major.
Right.
And so I had a job on campus. For those that don't know, I suppose, so in college I played Division I tennis. Was very fortunate to get onto a D1 team and play a little bit, not a ton, but a little bit. And enjoyed the heck out of my college experience because of it. But yeah, so like I was junior in college, and I had a job, and I was playing tennis, and I was busy all the time. And I would say I'd been into air guns for maybe like 2 years at that point. And I was just enjoying the heck out of it. I mean, I had, a handful of springers. I lived off campus, so I had about 50 yards in the backyard of this house we were renting. And I was very lucky that, PCPs were, you can buy used guns all over the place. I think we all know that, or air guns at least. And I picked up a couple nice used guns, a Vonix Rainstorm, a BSA Super 10, and both were really quiet at the time. And so I was just shooting in the backyard. And I saw on one of the forums one day, trolling along as you do, that Pyramyd Air was looking for online chat representatives. So it's through this company called Needle, and we still use this service today. If you're on our website, you see this thing pop up that says like talk to an airgun expert or something like that. And so ironically enough, actually, Rick Usler, Airgun Web, I think most people are probably familiar with Rick's videos. He's been in the airgun game for a long, long time. And one of the reasons I got into it as well, him and Paul Capello both were kind of the the YouTubers of the time when I was getting into this. They both guided me a ton, and Rick was actually running this team. So, he was working with Pyramyd to set this up in this third-party company, Needle, and interviewed. I was one of a handful of people, and basically our jobs were to, you're a salesperson, right? But you're online.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a whole process to how you make a sale on the internet and all that stuff. But it was a really cool program, and I was really lucky to be a part of it. And I ended up being like in the top 5 across all brands that Needle was kind of partnered with at the time, which included like Adidas, Coach, Skull Candy headphones. So like a bunch of honestly way bigger companies than Pyramyd Air. But I was putting up really, really good sales numbers. So I ended up getting invited out to work a couple conventions, kind of demonstrating the Needle platform. And right around the time of my senior year was coming to a close, I was really in that, kind of freak out mode where, you're sitting there going, man, I have no idea what I'm going to do with my life, and the real world's about to hit me in the face,
Mm.
So, there I was, and I started cruising around, and I started hopping on to Airgun company websites like, Crossman, Remington at the time was doing, might have been before Remington started doing their own air guns. But, looking at all the industry stuff, because I was like, man, this is cool. I'd love to be a part of this. And so I happened to jump over to Pyramyd Air and noticed that they were hiring for salespeople. And I was like, well, I'm kind of already doing this now. Might as well take away the middleman. So kind of, reached out and said, hey, here I am, and the rest is history, I suppose, now. So yeah, that was kind of how I got in at Pyramyd, and yeah, been there ever since.
Dang, dude, that's awesome. So did you go to school in Ohio then?
No, so I actually went to school, ironically, you mentioned Kentucky earlier, at Western Kentucky University, so Southern Kentucky. And the cool thing about that was I actually ended up meeting a lot of really great people in air guns. So I was really, at the time, I was really big on the GTA forum, if you're familiar with that one.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I'm like, I think I'm still a moderator there, although I'll be honest with you, I probably don't moderate anything. I really just read these days. But they started hosting fun shoots. And so I remember one year my dad came down, met me at school, and once school was over, the fun shoot was like the week after. So me and my dad hung out for a week and then drove down to South Carolina to Gene Curtis, the founder of the forum, to his house, and we had a great time, and we went for the next couple of years. And I got to meet a lot of great folks and, make a lot of friends. And that was awesome. Got to shoot a lot of cool guns, which at the time, kind of like you were saying earlier, I didn't have a whole lot of money. I was really fortunate. Honestly, I wasn't fortunate. I was stupid. What I was doing was, when you take out a loan to pay for school, right? I don't know if you've had to deal with this at all, but it's always overpaid. So you end up getting this reimbursement check a couple weeks into every semester, and they're big money checks, and they're addressed to you, not your parents. And so I was like, man, what could I could put $1,000 of this in the bank and take the other 800 and, or $1,000 or $2,000 and spend it on airgun stuff. If my dad listens to this, he's going to be super pissed, but, it's kind of all worked out because I ended up spending a lot of money I shouldn't have been spending on air guns, but it worked out in the sense that had I not spent all that money and learned about the guns and, gotten the hands-on experience, I probably wouldn't have been as successful in my current job anyway, or as a salesperson at the time. Because, I don't know about you, Tay, but like when I call up a company, there's nothing more reassuring than the person you're talking to saying, yes, I've used that product. Right.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, you're like, oh man, I've got somebody who knows their stuff. Right. And maybe they're not using it for exactly what I want to use it for, but they have the hands on, like, and they can tell me, is this a good spend of money? Right. And so, I was able to do that because I had owned, 40 or 50 guns, and they were all like, I bought the popular stuff because it was popular. So I was able to kind of amass knowledge really quick, and then you kind of spend some time shooting other people's stuff at these shoots, and yeah, I mean, you just kind of learn, take it all in as you can.
Dude, that's pretty sweet. I would never have thought to do that with the loan, not money, but
That's because you're smarter than me, Tay.
no, man, I'm just not that creative when it comes to that.
I guess. I mean, somebody hands you a check for a few $1,000s, you have like $10 in your bank account. There's probably some mischievous things you could do with it.
Dude, hey, I mean, all I'm saying is that was a bold strategy, Cotton.
It was, and I had no idea what it was going to turn into.
Well, it's really cool that it worked out. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah,
So what was like what was your first gun? You mentioned you checked out, or you were looking at the Marauder, that
yeah,
price point that wasn't $1 million. What was
right.
your first gun?
So, I suppose the first air gun I ever actually owned or bought with my own money was like a Crossman 760. And really, all of this starts for me. Have you ever seen the movie Shooter with Mark Wahlberg?
Yeah, man, I directed that.
Nice.
Oh, you guys didn't know that, but yeah, me and Marky Mark were tight.
Nice.
Yeah, great movie.
You have seen The Third Nipple, huh?
Oh, I've seen it.
Intimately familiar. Yeah. So I saw that movie and I was incensed, right? Like I was like on the internet going, what in the heck is the Coriolis effect? And like, are you telling me you can shoot far enough to that the rotation of the earth messes with your shot? And I'm just like mind blown, right?
Yeah, I mean, I thought the Coriolis effect was some sort of biological term, like something sexual that I didn't know about.
Yeah, well, I got to tell you, you're not that far off of what my first thought was either. So, I started looking all this stuff up, and I'm like, well, so I grew up in Illinois, which not that far from Chicago, maybe a half hour or so. And if you know anything about gun laws in the country, Chicago has some of the most restrictive gun laws in the country. It's from a gun owner's perspective, a horrible place to be.
Yeah.
Beautiful city outside of the small area where you get shot, but just not a gun friendly place. So I had no gun ranges. I didn't know that there were air gun clubs. I had no idea what was going on, and I stumbled onto YouTube, found a few videos. Like I said earlier, Rick Usler, has put out so much content over the years, and he was just getting started at that time. And I was like, man, I got to get something to shoot. Well, went over to Walmart, bought a $60, Crossman 760 kit with the cheapy scope and the BBs and the pellets, and started just plinking away in my basement at 10 yards. And I said, man, this is kind of fun, but I can't stand pumping. So the Beeman, well, what is now the Beeman, but at the time it was just industry brand, the QB78 CO2 gun. So I saw that. I saw, Rick had done a video. It was really accurate at like 10, 15 yards, which is all I had to shoot anyway. I was like, that's $100. I can swing that with some birthday money. I'm buying it. So I bought it. Well, my parents let me buy it, I should say. I think I was 18, but still it was kind of like my mom wasn't okay with it. So picked this thing up, got a relatively inexpensive leaper scope, and just started shooting, man, and it all spiraled. Like I just started watching more videos, reading as much as I can, like the Pyramyd Air blog that Tom Gaylord writes. Like I was just in way over my head. And so I started buying guns, man. You'd get a couple $100, over the course of a year for birthdays and holidays and stuff like that. And I would just save it all and spend it on air guns. I bought a Gamma Whisper, which maybe $180 gun was, most people look at Gamma and they're like, ugh, that's trash. Well, the thing shot okay. Like it for the entry level price point, it wasn't a bad gun. But it was a 177, and I should have gotten a 22. And it's all these things that you kind of learn over time that I had no idea of. But it also gave me experience with, trigger replacements. I put a GRT3 trigger in it from Charlie to Tuna. I don't know, T.A.P, you may not know that name.
I've heard the name. I'm not super familiar, but I've definitely heard the name.
Yeah,
Hard to
so
forget.
yeah, that's true. But then, shortly after I put this trigger in it, I was down at a GTA fun shoot, and I actually ended up meeting Bob Werner, Charlie DeTuna himself, and good guy. But it's like it was all cyclical for me. So I ended up buying that. I bought a used Diana 48 off of the Yellow Forum. Bought a Cometa Fusion, which is I think Air Force imports Cometa spring guns now. Got the cops called on me in my parents' backyard, actually, with that gun, because it was a black wood stock, all black with a little silver aluminum tip on the end of it. And one of my neighbors saw me shooting it, and it was also a 177, and I was probably right when I got it. So it was, dieseling and breaking the speed of sound, giving that nice audible crack.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there, breaking the barrel, and all of a sudden, cop walks into my backyard, and he's like, "Hey, man, what's going on?" And I'm like, "Holy crap!" So had that moment, got that out of the way. Thankfully, everything was cool. Nobody got taken to jail. I had a nice, a real safe backstop in the backyard, so they were thankfully very cool with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then when I got to college and I found myself with this backyard where I had a ton of land, my sophomore year, I started buying PCPs. So the first PCP I bought was a Benjamin Discovery with the hand pump. I think it was like a $350, $400 at the time, somewhere in that ballpark. And then, I got the TKO suppressor for it because you needed that because the gun was louder than loud,
Mm. Yeah.
And it got a couple other mods for it. And then I was like, all right, this is cool, but I keep seeing these videos of better guns. So got really lucky, found a great deal on a Generation 1 Avonix Storm Riot, or Avonix Storm. Holy crap, man, I'm losing my mind. In Avonix Rainstorm, which was a powerhouse of a gun, like a 22 that did like 45 foot-pounds. Where most 22s at the time were right around 30. This thing was a monster, and it was quiet. The first generation of those guns were really quiet, and then they shortened up the shroud and they got really loud. So I'm glad I got one when I did. Bought that, and then that's really where just everything went crazy. I was on forums. I had every internet forum like in my favorites on my cell phone. I was sitting in classes, like reading about air guns when I was bored, when teachers were talking about things that don't matter. And, I was like full on, man. And it was great. It was like I don't know how to describe it, but I think anybody who's kind of been at that place where you're just jacked up about a hobby or something you're getting into, where you're just, everything is awesome, where you got the rose colored glasses on. And that was me. I read everything. There was, all the industry gossip, and I knew no one that worked in the industry at the time. And, you're just reading these things and you're like, oh, this airgun company is a bunch of money hungry bastards, you're reading, getting upset at these people because they made this and then sold it to so-and-so. And, it was all that. And just, yeah, it was a good time. And then, then right around the time I got into the industry, actually, I think there was a year or two where it was normal, just kind of like the way it was before I had gotten into it in terms of the guns that were available and all that stuff. Right. And then things just started hitting where you had these inexpensive PCPs breaking the market open. You had, lower price compressors. You had big bores that were ultra powerful, by at least at the time, the current standards, where you went from 200 or 300 foot-pounds as kind of your norm big bore power to 500-600. And the Air Force Texan obviously blew that market wide open. And just thankfully through Pyramyd, I've gotten some really, really incredible opportunities, not only to participate in stuff, but to meet people and, to meet guys like Dennis Quackenbush, who is really, like, in my mind, at least, the father of the modern big bore airgun.
Right.
and that's meeting Dennis, getting to spend time with Tom Gaylord, meeting some of the bigger personalities out there, Ted Beer, Matt Dubber, Rossi Moriali, American Airgunner, like all those people, you get to kind of brush shoulders with them, as you say, and just, it's been a pretty crazy ride, man.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I mean, I think I would say anyone who knows you would consider you a successful individual in the industry.
That's sweet.
Oh, dude, I just think it's accurate,
Hmm.
But what do you think was like the the contributing factors to you being successful? Like, was it just engaging and just like immersing yourself in the airgun industry and getting
Interesting.
things just going, or what was it?
That's a
I
good
mean,
question.
did you pay someone under the table?
No. So there are a couple of things. Number one, I would say, so I was really lucky that I had parents that cared, right? I think, we all kind of, we know our parents care in their own way, right? But my parents were very work focused in terms of like, you come home, you do your homework, and then you can do whatever you want. You know what I mean? So it was very clear to me at a young age what was important and what wasn't. And so that was number one. Like my parents, I instilled a really good set of core values. The second thing is pure luck. I came into Pyramyd Air at a time when the company was growing at a pretty quick rate. When I came in, there were 35 or 40 people working at the company in 2013. We were in a 28,000 square foot building. There was the product was we were so overgrown at the time for the building that we were actually keeping product outside under tents. Okay.
Wow.
So that was how the the business was booming. All right.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, for the size. And then we moved into this just monstrous 70,000 square foot building, where I would say about 50,000 square feet of that is warehouse space.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden we had, a 45-yard range instead of just a 10-meter range. We had a 10-meter range too, but you had just space upon space, and it was, like I said, I got lucky, coming in when I did. So that was number one, and then I'm sorry, that's number two, and then number three was just, I think, yeah, I mean, I think having a lot of hands-on experience with the product was a differentiator in terms of me being able to have an educated opinion on air guns in general,
Right.
and from a place of experience. It's not me saying, oh, I read this on a forum somewhere. It's me saying, well, I've shot that gun, I've owned that gun, I've shot it at 50 yards, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever the case was. I could tell you what my opinion was on a TX200 versus an HW97. Like, you're not going to go wrong either way, but here's what this gun does better. Here's what that gun does better. And now obviously the market's completely different, but at the time that really helped in that the company didn't have too many people that could do that. And then also contributing to that is, like, I'm relatively young, 28, dating this podcast now, but yeah, like I came in at a time and in a place where there weren't a whole lot of young people talking about air guns. So yeah, I mean, the company basically gave me a few opportunities where, I did a podcast at an NRA convention or something like that, and it ended up being broadcast, and I wasn't stuttering and stammering through it, so that helped. And they
Mm-hmm.
were like, maybe we should put you on camera. So I started, I did a couple videos, and they went over okay. And nobody, at least at the time, we didn't have anybody doing videos for us, because there was some, changing going on behind the scenes, and people were
Right.
going in and out and all that. And yeah, and then basically, I was able to kind of off of that create my own job, which didn't exist before, with the help of a few people at the company at the time. basically say like, yeah, I want to do videos. I want to help with,
Mhm.
new products. What are we bringing in? What aren't we bringing in? Let's look for some new manufacturers of guns, of scopes, of pellets, of whatever.
Right.
Let's do some product development of our own, and come out with accessories or things like that, really made up the meat of what my job is today. And also things like, being able to edit the website and know how the back end works and all that stuff. And, I have my hands, sadly, it's actually not sadly, it's for good, better and worse, in a ton of different stuff within the company. And um, it's cool and it's awful at the same time. In
Yeah.
that, I end up doing a lot of different stuff, and it's sometimes hard to keep my head on straight, but it also gives me an opportunity to really sink my teeth into a lot of different stuff. So, yeah, there's never a dull day at Pyramyd Air, I can tell you that much.
Yeah, man. From just all the questions I see people asking online
Mm.
and asking on the Instagram thing,
Yeah.
you got your hands full, dude. So I mean, just those alone, I'm like, man, if people ask me that many questions, I probably just shoot myself in the penis with a with a
The funny thing about the Instagram side, so I personally, like, I was working with a rifle manufacturer, like, personally, helping
Mhm.
them kind of work out some of the kinks and evaluate a field target gun. And the contact I had over there kept telling me, he's like, you got to get on Instagram, dude. Like, he's like, that is like the gun place, that, like, Facebook is okay, but Instagram is where, like, the gun community is kind of going right now. And
Mhm.
I was just kind of like, yeah, whatever. I don't really like social media. It's boring. It's this, it's that. And finally, one day I was just like, screw it, set up an account and posted a couple pictures. And um, yeah, so I started getting this kind of like passive knowledge of what works and what doesn't and what catches people's attention on the old gram, which I still haven't 100% figured out, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And I started growing my own, account. And I just happened to look into it one day, and I noticed that, like, all our Pyramyd Air account was being used for was like sales promotions.
Right.
It was like stock photos from our website of products, which are our photographer Matt, who is also our videographer, does a great job on the photos. So they're beautiful, photographs, but
Yeah.
it's boring. Like, it's a gun with no scope on it. It's, there's no talk about, like, oh, it shoots great, or like, these are the drawbacks, or, this is how
Right.
this compares to that. And there's also no conversation going on. So I was like, you know what? Hey, like, can somebody give me the keys to this and let me drive for a little bit? So SHOT Show 2018, I think I officially, like, started gramming and doing the Q&A stuff and just kind of engaging a little bit more. And I think we had, when I started, like 1,500 followers, and I think we're up to almost 4,500 now.
Mhm.
So, in a little over a year, it's grown. Or was it a year or two? I don't know. Maybe it's 2019 SHOT Show. It's 2019 SHOT Show. But yeah, I mean, it's grown. Like, I feel like, for not paying anybody to follow us, basically. I feel like it's grown a lot, and we get a ton more questions than we did when I started doing it. And, it's cool. I mean, I've gotten to create relationships with guys like yourself, and now we're talking about it on a podcast, man. If this isn't breaking the fourth wall right now, I don't know what is.
I know, man. And if you guys could see me right now, I'm in my car. It's like 20 degrees in Colorado. I'm just in shorts and some sort of weird sweater that really tells people I'm a father. And it's freaking cold in here, but I can't, I can't go to my house because my baby does like war eagle screeches all the
Nice.
time. So sometimes I put it on my story on Instagram.
Yeah.
Man, he, I don't know. It's like some sort of like a Apache gene it's in him, and he just freaking hollers, and then he'll just throw like a toy like a tomahawk. So anyway, all that to say, this is high tech stuff, for recording on my phone, sitting in a freezing cold car because it's
It
quiet.
it works, man.
Um,
You are doing the community a service, my friend, and it is appreciated. I can tell you that.
Well, I appreciate that, especially coming from you. Um, and then a quick side note, good thing they got you on camera because I was, well, I mean, your looks, dude, obviously. I mean, you are my dad, so you look similar, but
One day your beard will grow in more fully. It's I know you're still working on it.
you know I have a hormone disorder. Any hot rod fans out there will get that reference. But anyway, I remember. Sorry, I'm still recovering from the plague that I had.
HIV.
The sign. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I shouldn't have agreed to that, but too late now.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell your wife.
Well, we have a kid, so she probably has it too.
Fair enough.
But I'm a virgin. He's not mine. Yeah. So I remember the specific shift of you guys having really sucky social media presence to then it just being like, you know, like you actually had good content, you're engaging with the community, you're getting people to engage with you, and it was like seriously a huge shift because I was like, man, Pyramyd Air, you're like the biggest, one of the biggest airgun suppliers and dealers out there, but your social media is lacking.
Right. Well, the thing is like our Facebook's always been solid, right? We have like 33,000, 35,000, likes, followers. I don't know how that works. But like that. And we also have one of the larger YouTube channels on the interwebs. So for Instagram to kind of be the emerging space, so to speak, at the time, at least, that changes so quickly these days,
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah, but it was like it offended me because there were all these companies I followed on Instagram that were doing it right, and they're all gun companies or gun related, right? So I was like, you know what? Shoot, man, I can do this. Like I have 20 minutes a day to find something to take a picture of, take pictures of it, post it here, throw up a Q&A picture, whatever, and then answer some of these questions. And like, that's about the amount of time I spend on it. Like, it's not crazy. Right. And so, it's, to me, in some respects, most actually, what is that? The most sincere form of flattery is, it's escaping
imitation.
Me. Yeah. Thank you. Imitation is the most sincere form of flattery. And, I've had a number of people that I respect and that I like and look to sometimes in the industry start doing it and tell me that, like, hey man, I hope you're not getting mad. I'm going to start doing this. And I'm like, dude, absolutely. Everybody needs to do this. Like, and I think that's what a lot of people lose is like, I'm really fortunate and I work in a place where that sells almost everything, as far as air guns are concerned. But for a company like FX USA to be taking that on and doing that and answering questions about specific aspects of their product line or whatever is, there's a ton of people that have misinformation out there about FX products, right? We hear calls all the time about this stuff. So it's super important for them to jump in and get involved in that. For, other retailers, company, Airgun Source up in Canada does it from time to time. Travis up there is a great guy and a good friend. There's so many people that can and should do this. And I know, like Utah Airguns, those guys do it every now and again. So, it's all about sharing that knowledge, right? Like everybody wants to know something that's a secret, and maybe I can't necessarily give you a secret at that point in time. In terms of things that are coming or new products that are still under wraps, things like that. But if you have a legitimate question about what's better and why, I'm more than happy to take a stab at it, man. Just because I've been down all those roads for the most part, and I've had the displeasure of spending a lot of money and feeling like garbage when you got a product that was maybe it was overhyped, or maybe you just got a bad one. Whatever the case was, it just leaves you with like a crappy feeling in the pit of your stomach, and nobody wants that. Like, we as a company do not want any of our customers to have that feeling.
Right.
But it happens, everybody gets a lemon from time to time, or yeah, I mean, companies just kind of screw up. It happens, or manufacturers screw up, and then there's one part that needs to get changed, and, things like that happen. And, yeah, if I can steer somebody clear of something like that, or if I can help somebody make a better decision, I'm all for it. And the gram seems to be working decently in that regard. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's working pretty darn well. I mean, there are so many questions, and I have a feeling that a lot of the same people are asking questions. I know myself, I do that, obviously. And I'm starting to, excuse me, I'm starting to identify some very common questions. Like one guy keeps asking for your hat, and
Mm.
I don't know who it is, but
So
I've caught on.
there is a bit of a funny story to that, actually. So it started where this random guy, and I really don't know who this person is. I mean, I know their handle on Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know who they are. Like, I've never met this person, and they started asking because I think I've worn hats in a handful of Q&A responses, and I think I was wearing a Adamant or Thomas Air or some kind of airgun related hat one day, and he asked for it, and I was like, heck no. And then somebody else asked because I think I looked annoyed or something, and so
Yeah.
it became a thing. And then a couple of weeks ago, I got this a beanie from a Canadian brewery. This is the real name, called Dildo Brewing Company.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm like, I think it's hilarious. Okay. Um, so me, Bill Rabbit, and Jeff Paddock, we're like the three amigos of Ohio airgunning, or at least I think we are. Probably not. I don't know
Oh,
what they
you
think.
are for sure.
Excellent, good to
I only
know.
know the two of you, but for sure.
So a friend of ours got all three of us these hats. So we're walking around Bill's house looking like idiots, wearing these hats with the word dildo on them and laughing about it. And I think I wore it one day or one evening at home responding to questions. And my dad, this is where this gets real. So my dad sends me a question on Instagram, "Can I have your hat?" And it starts all over again.
Oh dear.
Now the best part of this is my dad actually, because I kept asking him, like, which hat are you talking about? Because I've worn a few. Um, and he goes, "Oh, the black beanie," and he had no idea what it said on it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so he just wanted, like, I don't know why he wanted it, to be honest with you, but um, so I actually had sent him and my mom both their own Dildo Brewing Company beanies. And I got a video of them unboxing them, and my dad just dying of laughter. So that was pretty awesome.
Dude, man, you gotta post a picture.
Heck no.
Well,
My mom would be so ticked if she made it onto the interwebs like that.
would she know though? Is she on Instagram?
She might have an account, and I kid you not, she told me her reasoning for getting an account was so that she could keep up with me as I post these things and see how my day was going.
Oh man, moms,
Which
dude.
is super sweet. Yeah, super sweet. My parents are really awesome, man. I'm not just saying that because they may end up listening to this. I'm saying that because they really are awesome. So
Yeah, Mr. and Mrs. Patner, you did well. You
that's so
cooked him
sweet.
you cooked him well, you raised him well. He's got good genes.
We'll
Jealous of his
see.
beard.
Hey,
Anyway,
man, I might end up aging like milk. You know what I mean? Who knows?
well, as long as you
You,
don't get chunky.
as long as I don't start to clot, and yeah.
Yeah, just don't curdle. You
Yeah,
know?
well, yes, exactly. Well, I'll do my best. I'll keep myself away from bright lights and heat.
That's probably not too hard to do, in Ohio. What, what's
Not right now.
what's the weather like there for the most part?
It has actually, the last week or so, been really nice, and by really nice for February, I mean it hasn't snowed, rained a little bit, but it's like in the 40s, which is unseasonably warm. But Ohio is one of those weird places where it'll snow in April, Like we've shot field target matches where it snows in April and May, and you're sitting
Mhm.
out there on a lane going like, I can't feel my hand, I can't load my gun, chattering away. So it's a very strange place, man, weather-wise. But having grown up in the Midwest, you kind of get used to it because there just is no other way.
Yeah, that's a lot like how it is here in Colorado. I mean, it's
Mm.
like we've had crazy like days of snow. Just recently, it snowed like I'd say that in the past 2 weeks, it's probably snowed 10 times. And then there have
Oof.
been days where it's like 60 degrees when it's not snowing. So it's like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah. So, like, my perception of Colorado, having only been there once, is that when it snows, it really snows. Like here in Ohio, it can snow and not stick. But I feel like in Colorado, and again, this may just be my perception, anytime it snows, you have a foot on the ground. Because how else would you go snowboarding and skiing?
That the elevation is the big game changer. Because if you're up in the
Mm.
mountains, it's when it snows, it freaking snows. If you're kind of down in the city, like I'm in like a Denver suburb area.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it can snow and not stick, but it's so different. You know, like I said, I think there was a what was it? I want to say it was 40 degrees difference, maybe 30. 30-degree difference from like going from fall into winter. And there's just a random day of like 72 degrees. And then it
Ugh.
dropped down and it was like snowing and it was horrible.
What?
So
That
if
sounds
you're up
nuts.
if you're up in the hills, it'll snow and it'll stick, and then people go snowboarding and skiing all the time. I've never been. Um,
What?
yeah, Colorado native. Dude, I freaking hate snow. I want to move to like Hawaii or
Well, don't move to Hawaii. There's nothing
Jamaica.
there. Jamaica is also a pretty not great place, but okay. I mean, beautiful weather. You got some nice water and stuff like that, but like not a great place. Um, you go for like Louisiana or something.
I could do that.
Yes,
Some,
it's not. I like Louisiana a lot, actually.
I want to explore different states. But I went to Kauai for my honeymoon, so I think there's just some nostalgia there. It was
Yeah, there
really
might
cool.
be. Yeah,
But I
Every,
know that
everything's more expensive there.
yeah, it is. It's freaking really expensive.
Yeah.
It's not too much more expensive than Colorado, which kind of blows, but
You
I
would
mean,
think, in all seriousness, and not to take this in a political direction, but you would think that with all that tax money they got to be making off of weed sales, that like prices would come down. You would think.
dude, it's not working that way.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah, I've never
Uh,
smoked either. I mean, I'm a native. I never snowboarded or skied. Never smoked. I didn't drink until I was 21. Had like my
that
first
there's
beer.
nothing wrong with that.
No, dude, I never got into it. Tons of my friends smoked though.
As a
But
father, I'm now a little worried about you going downhill at some point, like getting exposed to something and just completely losing your mind. So I hope that doesn't happen.
yeah, I've been considering cocaine at work, but I mean, I got to get through those sales calls. If I was selling air guns, though, I mean, I wouldn't feel that way.
Hey man, if you want to
But
move to Ohio, we're always hiring for different stuff.
frick.
So
Well, I have to talk to the wife, see what she says,
that's a valid
because
point. Yeah, you have
she's
you
kind of
have
a
other things to consider.
yeah, she's great. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, when you look like me and she looks like that, and she decides to marry you, sometimes you just take some L's, and you say, "Okay, honey, whatever you say, as long as you don't leave me."
Tay,
So
you're not an awful looking person, man. I don't know like what kind of self deprecating shtick you're on, but like you're doing okay, my friend.
I know, but my wife is like super hot, man, and I'm not. I'm like, you know, what's a good scale? Let's say from Sloth from the Goonies up to I'm gonna say Ryan Gosling. Ryan
Oh,
Gosling's a 10. Sloth is a 0.
okay.
I want to put myself at like a Jack Nicholson. You know,
Like, give me a number because I don't know where that falls, man.
Well, depends
Because
on
you
the year
you could be
of the
talking
film.
about like Joker, Jack Nicholson. Actually, there's really no other. That's like the only. You got The Shining, Jack Nicholson, which is still like. I don't know if there's actually any good Jack Nicholson here.
That's what I'm saying. I want to say
Oh,
anger management, Jack Nicholson.
so where's that? Is that like a 5? Like people know you're human, but they're not quite sure what to do with you.
Yeah, they're like he could be nice, but he might actually also bite people
Wow.
if they
Okay.
that kind of
You're
thing.
you're really hard on yourself, man. You should get your wife on here, and ask her your opinion or her opinion of you. Maybe
She
she
just
would
tell you how
flatter
cute
you.
I am.
Well, what's wrong with that?
Oh, nothing, man. I love being cute
Exactly.
to my wife,
There you
but
go. There
from
you
a
go.
you're right. I I I am the best looking person I know.
I
No,
feel like I have a few years on you. Like I might be able to impart a few points of wisdom.
I think so.
Yeah.
Like you're like a wise old owl that's not very old, and you're
Yeah.
also human.
Yes. I'm
So
I'm I am mentally a aging, decrepit old man.
you're,
I'm like
you're
70 in my head.
Morgan Freeman.
Holy crap! You're right.
I called that at the beginning.
What what is the? I'm trying to think of some way to redo the Shawshank Redemption speech, but talk about air guns, right?
Mm. Hey,
Ah,
great movie. If you guys haven't seen it, go watch it. My wife hasn't
go.
seen it, and it's
Oh
not on
wow!
Netflix, so I can't show her.
I knew the Benjamin Marauder. I can't say I liked it much, you know.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think we might have to do a spoof film.
Yo, that's one thing that is missing. I feel like I've really debated on between you, me, and whoever listens to this, which I feel like I'm going to give away a good one here. I've given away a handful of good ideas over the years, and I feel like this is one. Although nobody'd be able to pull it off quite like I could, um, just because of positioning. I really want to make a like the real airgun industry Instagram
Uh-huh.
or like dirty airgun secrets Instagram,
Dude.
and just start not even like current stuff, but like post a picture of a 20-year-old gun and be like, you really want to know how this came into existence? Not that there's really anything to tell, but just to spark controversy. I think it'd be hilarious.
I think you should do it, and I think you should
Well, now
pose
that
the
I've told
account.
everybody, it'll go nowhere.
Well, if you pose the account under someone else's name, like Justin
Well,
Jacobson or Matt Dubber, I mean,
no, both of those are good guys. I can't do that. It'd have to be somebody that nobody likes, and that's the problem. That and this is serious, by the way, in a joking conversation, but this is a serious point. There are a lot of people that get hate on for like stupid reasons or because they're popular, and for no reason, or because because people are tied in with this company or that company, right? There's a lot of that people get
yeah,
jealous, or they're just like, oh, they lie about everything or whatever. Okay, um, dead serious. I have not met, as far as like internet personalities go, almost all of them are exactly the way they come off on camera as people. Okay. Like Rossi Morielli is really that excited about life. Like it's not like he's like, air guns are amazing. Oh my God. Like
hmm
it's not just about air guns. He is like that
right.
in life. Okay. Um, Ted Beer, one of the coolest people I know. All right. He's got a ton more experience than most people will ever know from an air
hmm
gunning side. And obviously he has this massive following, but he's a regular dude, and he's more than happy to, well, or at least he used to be. I haven't seen Ted in a few years, but we talk every now and again. But he's just like he'd be probably super happy just sitting down at a range somewhere and just shooting air guns. You know what I mean?
Oh, totally.
Or whacking pigeons. And Matt Dubber, the air hunters guys from South Africa, they're awesome dudes. They are, and they really do go everywhere in flip flops. By the way, Uh, I
I
was
seriously,
astonished.
dude, I am blown away by it. I'm like, man, if I get like a pebble in my shoe, I'm like, frick, I will literally stop. I will pull over and take my shoe off and take the pebble out. I'm like, I can't do this. So
Right.
I don't know how to do flip flops.
They climb mountains in those things.
I
All
know,
right.
dude.
It is nuts. All right. Like, but who else? Travis Patton, Airgun Depot. I like Travis a lot. He's a good dude. He is one of the mentally sharpest people I know, and has like just some of the best quippy comebacks. I don't know if you've caught any of our TNT stuff on YouTube that we're putting out between us and Airgun Depot. Uh, Travis and I sat down just to kind of shoot the shit about air guns. Am I allowed to swear? Is that okay?
Hell yeah, bitch.
Awesome. Yeah. So we just sat down and talked back right before RMAC last year, and
Right.
it's just like he's like ragging on me because I'm short, and I'm like, I'm not short. You're an ogre. Like, what the hell, bro?
Yeah.
And he would just have some quippy comeback, and like it was really good. He thought I poisoned him that day, which was not necessarily the greatest feeling in the world, having somebody accuse you of poisoning them. But that aside,
Been there.
yeah, but in all seriousness, like for the most part, I would say, with the exception of one or two people that I've met over the years, like the airgun industry is really full of some great folks. And Steve Shialley, like Rick Usler, Paul Capello. I mean, I've met all those guys. I've spent time with those guys, talked to them, talked airguns, talked life stuff, and they are all good people, man. And that is just, I don't know if there is another industry where you would really have that. So,
I totally agree because even I haven't met anyone quite to that caliber,
mm-hmm.
but just the people I have met in the industry, man, they're so cool. They're so generous. Like that, you being one of them. Um, you know, just people who have been like, hey, I'm gonna help you out. Yeah, I'm gonna.
Yeah. You know what, man? I have been blessed to know a ton of good people, and had a lot of good paid forward my way, so to speak. So it's really important to me to continue that and like give back to air guns and air gunning. It's really important to me. So I like to know that I help somebody along in the world as far as air gun stuff goes, man. Because I feel like the community is small enough but growing where we really need to nurture, and really try and grow each other, because if you don't, you're just gonna it's just never gonna go anywhere. And it's good for Pyramyd Air's business. It's good for the manufacturers. It's good for other retailers. Obviously, having more blood into air guns, but if we are all destroying each other on the internet forums and Facebook and Instagram, people are going to look from the outside in and go like, man, I don't want to get into this. Like,
Yeah.
So it's really good to see that most people are pretty cool. Like, and most of the time when there are little internet squabbles and things, you never know the real story, and that's okay. And people get over it.
Yeah, totally. And I agree. This is a great industry. It's been super friendly, super just like welcoming to me, and I know to other people too. Everything I've seen, I mean, I'm super getting into it. I was a little afraid at first to like reach out to people, because I'm a newbie. So if it's like the freshmen trying to talk to the seniors kind of thing. And then they put you in a locker and pee on you, but you don't ever tell anyone until you start a podcast later. But yeah, it's been really cool. And I think if you sat down and had coffee or even developed like a slight relationship with anyone in the industry, you would realize, hey man, this dude's just like me, or this lady's just like me.
Yep.
And they're not, because the companies get like a bad rap, or this company did this to that company, and
Right.
They split ways, and because they did this and they're liars and their product sucks. And it's like, well, they're selling $1 million a month in product, so maybe it doesn't suck that bad. So what's the deal?
Well, who
I
are
think
you
it's
talking about? Because I want to know who's doing $1 million a month. Holy crap! I'm kidding.
Snow Peak Airguns, man. You know how many Chinese people there are? More than there are in Kansas.
No comment. Anyway. No,
but
no, you're absolutely right, man. And it's it's good to see. And we need more stuff like this, like you doing the podcast. We need more people to jump in, step up, and do different stuff, because for one company or one person to try and take on all of it, is stupid, because you're going to get sick and saturated. Like people are going to get sick of listening to you, and it also just keeps things different and gives people an opportunity to jump on other people's backs and platform and and try and grow. So I think it's awesome.
Yeah, man, it really is. It's really cool. It's great to be a part of something, because it makes when you're a part of something, like part of a community, you're part of something bigger than yourself. That just feels good,
Absolutely.
Unless it's like a racial community kind of thing, then it feels weird.
I knew that was going somewhere.
I mean, I just want to be clear, I'd rather be part of an Airgun community or like a local church than, like a. I'll leave it at that. You know where I'm going?
Yes, I'm following you. I'm smelling what you're stepping in. Yes.
Dude, speaking of stepping, my neighbor's dog is pooping right in front of my car right now, so it's pretty cool.
You should definitely honk at it.
I'm afraid it would like die. It's like one of those little dogs where you're like, why are you a thing kind of thing?
Yeah.
And it may or may not have like, I don't know, some sort of rare condition.
It's a rat that barks.
Yeah, and it's got like, scurvy probably and weak bones.
As the owner of a normal sized dog, my dog's like 65, 70 pounds. I find it offensive that people call those little mini dogs. Not that it's a fine animal, but like it's not really a dog.
It's like a hybrid.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm offending a ton of people right now.
Yeah.
I don't know. Whatever.
You can't please everybody.
No. I had some guy comment on, I think it was the last TNT video that got put out, that said, Tyler came across like a real asshole. Now, first of all, that's the point, okay? I'm not that I am very sarcastic and like have a very dry sense of humor. So I'm sure Travis understood that I'm not being an asshole when we were filming this. Or maybe he thought I was being an asshole, and I'm okay with that, because, we could talk about it afterwards. But like,
yeah, you guys have a relationship, though,
right? But again, even if we didn't, I think it's funny. Okay, like I'm trying to have a very staunch opinion on something, so that you do get kind of like, oh man, like what the hell, like my dislike for the FX Crown rubs some people the wrong way, and it's not like I just don't like the gun. I have my reasons. It is what it is, right? But saying that, people are like, a lot of the FX fanboys that are closeted FX fanboys are like, how can you say that? Like that's not right. Like how can you like the Impact but not like the Crown?
It's got a thumb hole.
Right. Like it's got a wood stock. Like you don't like wood stocks now? What? But how do you like this gun and not the Crown? It's all that kind of stuff. And I'm just like, all right, look here, guys. I don't have to like everything. All right. But there's just that, like, sometimes you need to have an opinion. And honestly, when I read that guy's comment calling me an asshole, it made me smile and laugh. So I replied back like, hey man, thanks. I hope you have a great day. I don't remember what I said, but it was something along those lines, where he's probably sitting at home going like, man, I really thought I was going to get into an argument today. Darn it. I wish I was a better keyboard warrior. I just think it's like, man, like some of this stuff is hilarious.
Yeah, man. Some of the stuff I read, and you and I have had private conversations about this, about people like saying stuff or commenting, and it's like, what the heck, dude? You are the worst person. You are worse than Toby Flenderson from The Office. If he was a real person, you are worse. And man, so a lot of respect for you, because I don't know if I could handle the flack like you
Oh
do. I'd be like,
man,
look, dude, I will freaking. Never
you
mind.
you have to have thick skin to do any of that. And like I will say this. I don't you can call me whatever you want. I'm not going to give it any credence unless I know you. In which case,
Right.
I would say you're entitled to have an opinion, and maybe I know why you have that opinion,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe I don't, and I wish you would have told me. Um, but most of the time, it's just people trolling, and honestly, it's normal. Like that is what society has devolved itself into these days. So, um, yeah, I learned pretty early on, like as long as nobody's coming after me for something I said on camera or said in a podcast or wrote on the internet somewhere, and saying I'm wrong or I'm a liar or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and as long as I can back up what I'm saying with a video or whatever, like if a gun performs well for me and you get a POS, like I'm sorry,
Yeah.
like I know there's always the, like you mentioned, conspiracies that like, oh, all the guns are handpicked or so and so gets only good product, and they go through it tip to tail. And like,
Yeah.
dude, I pull the air guns out of the box the same way you guys do, I promise. I just do a little bit more vetting of it before we put it on camera. and
Right.
and guess what, if you've never seen us do a video on something that's brand new, it's probably because it broke. Like, and at
Yeah.
that, I have my own limitations and acceptance in terms of, if a gun fails, which I think for our video stuff we've only had happen once or twice. I always say it like, hey, this is the second gun we had. First gun had a whatever, you know. It's I've been very fortunate in that regard. And honestly, if it goes past that two gun point where if I have to get a third gun or a third product, if it's an accessory, I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm not putting
Yeah.
that on camera. I don't want to be associated. Get me out of here. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, and that that's a smart move, and that's a business move too in itself, because you don't want to just look like you're trying to sling any kind of gun that
Right.
will make you a profit. You want to be, slinging the good stuff.
That's exactly right. And like I've gotten myself into a bit of hot water at work before, because I've like just outright refused to do videos or stuff on certain things, and people are like, you need to help push this product, and I'm like, no, no, I don't,
Yeah.
I don't, I don't want a bad experience. If it's I'm always willing to give something a second look, like down the line, so to speak.
Hmm.
But if it's like, a week after something just failed on me, I'm like, I'm not touching that. No.
Yeah, and I think that part of that is really just at a core staying true to like who you are,
Yeah,
and not,
it's an
look, I'm
integrity
not going to
thing.
push this. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm not going to push, this product because we're trying to increase sales, or corporate made a big deal with this company. Like, it
Yeah.
freaking sucks, man.
Yeah. I will say I've been one or two times it's actually worked against me where we've had, where I've either had bad luck with a product that, like I got the only two bad ones that existed, and
Right.
then I'm ending up like 3 months later having to redo something I could have done before it came out or whatever.
Yeah.
Or on the flip side of that, I've also had the experience where the one I got was phenomenal, truly.
Hmm.
And the minute they start shipping out the door, people are having problems left and right, and you're like, did I not use this thing the right? Like, did I just baby it, or like, did I get the
Yeah.
good one, or and it kind of calls into question everything you believe.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
it's a strange thing, but it's all good, man. Like I said earlier, I'm really really lucky to get to do what I do, and get to touch and play with the things that I get to see, and even to some extent have a little bit of influence on the airgun world. So it's awesome, man.
Yeah, that is sweet. Well, Tyler, I don't want to keep you too much longer. You've already been very generous with your time. So two things real quick. Um, what would you say to someone who's getting into air guns? What kind of just general advice would you give them? they're not sure about it, or they're just coming into the industry. They don't know which way to go. PCP, Springer, that whole thing.
Okay, so I wouldn't worry about where you're going to start, all right? My advice is more general than that. Buy the best you can afford. If that means $200, buy the best thing you can get for $200, which is probably going to be a brake barrel or a spring gun of some kind, and that's okay. And and some of this note is about knowing what you're going to use it for as well, and doing that research, because I think the research part and learning is very important. But buying the best you can afford, I think, like, personally, I made massive mistakes in terms of money spent on middling product when I should have saved money for another month or two and just bought the better gun. So
Right.
I look back at that and say, like, man, I wish I had saved up a little bit more money and just started with this gun. Like, you're doing it the right way, my friend. Like, jumping from a entry level gun like the Storm Rider up to a Dreamline, like you skipped all the riffraff in between, and there's nothing wrong with the riffraff. It can be fun,
Yeah.
and you can do a lot of stuff with it, but you're jumping right to that really that higher level, and that's the smart way to go. So, and there are a lot of great guns now, thankfully, in the market that are in that price range. So that would be one thing, and I think the other thing is don't feel like you need to buy a $2,000 air gun to do whatever you need to do. I think
sure.
we're all really, everybody's really excited about and enamored with the latest and greatest and the coolest and most expensive. And I think that's fair when you've gotten the opportunity to play with all the other stuff. But for those of the people out there that haven't, I think you need to understand that you don't need to spend FX Air Arms, Day State, Raw, like Y-Rock. You don't need to spend that kind of money to get a PCP or spring gun or whatever that's going to bust squirrels at 30 yards in the backyard.
Right.
So don't feel like you have to spend more, but if you have a budget, it's okay to stick to that budget, but spend every penny of that budget making sure you're getting a quality air gun. That's what I would say. And if you don't know what that quality air gun is, you give Pyramyd Air a call, or send us an email, and we'd be happy to help you. There's your plug.
Perfect. Well, that was going to be part two. Is what's the plug? Where can we find you? Follow Pyramyd Air. How can we support that kind of thing? But
Yeah. So yeah, if you're on the social medias, you can find us at Pyramyd Air on the Instagram. If you're interested in my personal exploits, you can follow me at Tyler Patner. Really easy. We're on Facebook as well. Pyramyd Air. You look us up, you'll find us. I guarantee it. www.pyramydair.com, 888-262-4867 with all your airgun questions between 9 and 5, Monday through Friday, for all things airgun related. YouTube, Pyramyd Air. I think that's all I got.
F&A Cotton, and that's Pyramyd with two Y's.
Two Y's. Pyramyd AIR.
Spelled incorrectly on purpose.
Just to get your attention.
Boom. Well, guys, there you have it. There's Tyler Patner, the most handsome man in the airgun world that I know of, besides myself.
That's bold. I'm getting a shirt made with that on it.
Hey, I got a couple shirts I have to send you, actually, so that'll be one of them.
Awesome. By the way, Rossi Morreale would argue that with you, and I would argue that with you on his behalf, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, he's pretty handsome.
He doesn't age, by the way.
Yeah, dude. Is he 25 or is he 45? I don't know.
That's a good question. You'll have to get him on here and ask him.
Yeah, Rossi, come join me. It'd be my pleasure, and also we could talk about college football.
There you go. He's a big fan.
Boom. All right, guys. Well, Tyler, it was a real pleasure having you on here. Something I've been waiting for a long time. And man, it was even better than I expected.
Yeah, man. Well, thanks for having me, and I appreciate you doing this. It is awesome to see. I hope you get lots more folks on here, and who knows, maybe we can do it again sometime.
Yeah, man, that would be great.
Awesome.
Maybe one day I'll have a fancy non-car studio and good sound equipment, that whole thing. Fly you out, cook you some filet mignon, that whole thing.
Yo, but to be honest with you, even if you do get to that point one day, you understand we're going to have to do that, like that next podcast in your car, right?
Yeah, for sure.
You just said that, so we're going to have to do it.
Fair enough.
Awesome.
And we'll do it in the summer so you're not frozen.
Oh,
Well, again,
I appreciate that.
cool. Well, Tyler, thanks so much, man. You're the best.
Thanks, Scott.
And guys, tune back in. Go follow Tyler and Pyramyd Air. Peace
Awesome.
out.
Thanks, man.